Oh, hello my friends, and welcome once again to the Masked Fan Attic above Horror Hotel. You know, the time has come. I've done enough of these segments up here. I really need new batteries in this thing, I'm finding. But anyway, you know, one of the interesting things about monsters, and really, what is there that isn't interesting that has to do with monsters? I can't think of a thing. One of the many interesting things, though, is that a lot of monsters represent the cultural flavor, the mood, the fear zeitgeist, if you will, of the time period in which they were created. And a lot of monsters are interesting historically because a lot of them represent certain things that society feared at the time the monster came along. And well, one such mask is this guy right here. This is from Dawn Post Studios. Can we get a caption up here that says Dawn Post Studios? I think right there. Okay, 2, 3, 4. That's long enough. They've had time to read it. Get rid of it. Thank you. Okay, this guy right here from Dawn Post Studios is over Reactor. You get it? Reactor? Now, I know a lot of people who are over reactors, really, but luckily they don't look like this guy. Well, not most of them. Well, not exactly like him. But anyway, this guy came out in 1979, I believe, at first, only at that time he was called Nuclear Death, and that version was a glow-in-the-dark mask. It was made of black vinyl and then stipple painted or sponge painted with glow-in-the-dark paint, and it had just a little bit of black and red highlighting and shading going on, or shading and highlighting going on. And then this version, over Reactor, came out in the early 80s, and it's the same character, only this one does not glow in the dark and is just painted minimally with just a little bit of black and red, and it's made of flesh-colored vinyl. So rather than being painted all over, it's just flesh-colored vinyl, and then it's got a little black and red there going on, and just a little bit of white, a little whites in the eyes right there, which you don't fire until you see them, as you know. But anyway, over Reactor was sort of a response to the fear that people had at the time of nuclear power, nuclear energy, and atomic reactors, and well, I said nuclear, but if you're an ignorant person, nuclear. If you're a smarter person, nuclear. But people were afraid of nuclear power, and at that time there were a lot of movies and television programs and stories and what have you about things going horribly wrong because of nuclear energy, and people were distrustful of it. And well, of course, there were jokes about, you know, people glowing in the dark and sprouting extra fingers and toes and eyeballs and such, and it made perfect sense to have monsters who had to do with nuclear energy and nuclear reactors. So this guy, I guess he lived near a reactor, or else he worked at one, and this is what happened to him when something went wrong. Now, of course, this was in, again, the late 70s and early 1980s, and there were movies all the time. There was like the China Syndrome and The Day After and all that stuff about nuclear energy, and it seemed like a natural thing to have like radioactive atomic zombies like this fellow. But that seems silly now, you know. Back then, we were worried about nuclear power and reactors and atomic energy plants. You know, back then it was a real fear that people really thought about, and now it seems ridiculous because, of course, now we know, all these years later, how silly it was to worry about that, because we now know that nothing could possibly go seriously wrong at any nuclear power plant, because now we know that those facilities are entirely designed and built and approved and maintained and operated and inspected by people who are completely selfless, brilliant, altruistic geniuses. And we know that none of those people, to a man, none of them involved in the design and construction and operation of nuclear power facilities are in any way irresponsible, short-sighted, money-grubbing, penny-pinching, incompetent, indifferent, uncaring weasels who only care about the bottom line profit-wise, and who would willingly destroy the whole planet for the few during their miserable lifetimes. We know now that nothing like that could ever really happen, but at the time this mask was out, that was a legitimate fear, you see, back in the day. It was a very long time ago now. But this guy, if you're a fan of 70s monster masks and Halloween masks from that period, you might recognize he has some facial similarities, has some characteristics in common with some of the other Don Post masks of that era, such as Eric. Not the one with the one-half face like the Batman's enemy, Two-Face looking guy. Not that one. The other Eric that had the hair glued on has a slight resemblance to this guy. Also, Frankenstein 2000 was another mask that had a little bit of a resemblance to this guy, owing to the fact that they were sculpted by none other than Bill Malone. And that's the same Bill Malone who later went on to direct some great movies like the House on Haunted Hill remake from 2000 and Parasomnia, both of which are great movies, by the way, and I highly recommend them. If you haven't seen the House on Haunted Hill remake, and if you haven't seen Parasomnia, you should go out and rent them or get them through Netflix or something like that and watch them, because they're both great films. And even if you have seen them, maybe you should watch them again, because they are good films. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about this guy. They're pretty rare these days. You don't see Overreactor or Nuclear Death turning up too often. Actually, to be honest, and I love truthiness, you know, to be honest, I kind of like the Nuclear Death version a little better, but I don't have mine anymore. I don't remember what happened to him. But, I don't know, maybe he melted into a little atomic pile. I don't know. But anyway, be on the lookout, because you never know when one of these guys may turn up on eBay or through some old mask dealer. So, Overreactor from Don Post. And until next time, remember...